All right, welcome to Bench Talk Live. Button up my collar a little bit here. Gotta look good for the show. Appreciate everyone tuning in. Hopefully you can hear me. Mic check. There we go. All right, guys, we got a great show. You know the deal. Questions submitted through our Instagram stories the other day. We're going to have a secret code that is going to be announced on air here that you can receive 20% off our website if you're looking to get wraps, sleeves, elbow sleeves, programs. If you're looking to get some apparel, some shirts, you're going to save 20% till tonight only with this discount code. But you have to stay with us to hear the code. I'm also giving out a free shirt to someone that joins us on Instagram Live and or YouTube. Okay, so we got a great show, a lot of good questions. I'm going to take a sip of coffee for the working man. Good stuff, I tell you what. All right, guys, so whenever you're good, just drop your questions, topics, whatever you want to talk about on today's show. We're talking bench pressing, all things lifting, for that matter. Hybrid Hillbilly said the YouTube's not working. Usually I forget to press a damn button on this thing. All right, here we go. Appreciate that, Matt. He's our sound check here. All right, we should be good. My fat fingers keep hitting buttons. All right, actually down 20 pounds since, I guess, March, since the whole quarantine thing started. Everyone went up, and I ended up going down. All right, we got GW Ireland, hi from Ireland. Gar and Baz here training. How we doing? Thanks for joining in. Logan Barbell, what should my first workout in a shirt be like? I would point in the direction of our shirt break-in article. I would just take some reps to high boards, really whatever you can. The starting point is going to be different for everyone, depending how tight you ended up getting your shirt. A tighter shirt going to require more of a break-in process, but pretty much what you're trying to do at the end of the day is widen out your grip to the bar if you currently can't get to the widest grip possible. A very tight shirt, you're probably going to be locked into a close grip starting out. You're not going to be able to get much farther than that. And the high board, working down in the boards, whatever you can get to. You know, I honestly don't even like the boards. I would just take the shirt, take the weight down to wherever you can get the shirt to stretch to. Matt says, I have a question building on the pause question from Instagram. What should you be focusing on during the pause? So let's get into Matt's question that came in from Instagram too. How long do you like to hold the pause to really work strength off the chest? And then he's saying, what should it be focusing on with the pause? So how long we would hold the pause, majority of our lifters are going to be training with a competition pause. The only time that we wouldn't pause is if we're going to be doing speed work, compensatory acceleration training, cat work. Then we are going to, majority time, we're going to train touch and go. For the rest of the benching, everything is done with a comp pause. Okay, and I even like to see comp pause on variations such as a floor press, an incline press, you name it. I like to see a pause in all of that. Okay, we are time to time going to be doing long pause work to build strength off the chest. By long pause, I mean traditionally we're going to hold for 3 seconds. If I'm seeing an athlete doing a quick 1, 2, 3, and it's really just turning into a competition pause, I'm probably going to have them hold 5 count pauses because their counts are just very quick. If I'm there with someone coaching in person, I'm going to do a 3 Mississippi call because I want it to be a strict 3-second pause. But when the strength off the chest is a weak point, stability off the chest is a weak point, definitely a 3 Mississippi hold for a good chunk of the training, going to help tremendously with that. And then he also mentions tightness. What are you thinking about to create tightness and stuff down at that chest level. Well, the big thing that often gets lost is the shoulder blade depression. So when you get the bar out and you're driving your shoulder blades back, I think everyone gets that pinch concept, but where everyone gets stumbled up is on the concept of dragging your shoulder blades underneath you towards your hips and creating that activation. Because there's not much motion that's going to happen there. So oftentimes I say, hey, you should be dragging your shoulder blades down, and then an athlete ends up just kind of moving from the shoulder, forgetting the pinch and trying to, really create this dramatic movement with their shoulders. When in reality, when you get this pinch, and I'm talking, I mean, you wouldn't even be able to see it much on this video. I'm just talking about that much. That's just me keeping that pinch, but trying to pull down. The harder I keep the pinch, the less motion I'm really going to get down. But it's important that I create that activation, because that's how I'm going to get spring off my chest. So I find that's usually where lifters get tripped up the most. If you're keeping a really good retraction with your shoulders, you're not going to have much movement of the shoulder blades down, depressed down, but it's important to have that activation, because that, as you're getting closer to the chest, that's what's going to end up sliding out on you. To create that rebound, you're trying to essentially make it harder for yourself to get down to the chest. We don't want it to be easy to get down to chest. Everything we're doing with lifting, creating tightness is just about blocking yourself from doing the motion. You understand that more when you get into equipped lifting, that you feel the feedback, because you'll feel the tension of the suit. You'll feel like it feels like you're jamming your butt into a brick wall. It ain't going to move, but therefore the weight's pushing you through. So you really understand how to create tightness better when you learn equipped lifting. But that's really what it comes down to, is we're just trying to create tightness in ways that it blocks us from completing the motion. But yeah, that would be the main thing I'd say in terms of technique, is that depression down with the shoulder blades, because it's more the activation of it. You're not going to see a dramatic motion, nor am I going to see that in a video. I'm usually, I'll see things like the bar coming out a bit. I'll see the shoulders come under maybe a little bit, but not really something I'm going to see in a video. And oftentimes is that I'm not going to see much activation stuff in videos, because it's intrinsic. It's what you're doing to create tightness. I'm not really going to see that all the time. So I hope that answers your question, Matt. You have that component, obviously bending the bar. You want to stay tight to the bar. A lot of lifters get tripped up thinking about what they're doing with their elbows. I would not think about your elbows whatsoever. I would just try to create the right tension to the bar. Use your lats. Use your back strength, and you won't have to worry about it. It's kind of like in the squat. We don't want to think moving knees out. We want to think what we're doing at the hips, and or what we're doing with our feet, stacking the ankles, things like that. That's going to get our knees to where they need to be. All right, so hopefully that answers that, Matt. Let me know if you want me to expand on anything there. But that was a great question. Thanks for following up with the tightness thing as well. Actually, that's probably a great YouTube video. And while we're on air now, I'll go over to my YouTube video page, and I'm going to write that in, Matt, because that's a great topic that I want to touch on, probably a little more detail, and showcase that. All right, guys, any more questions popping in here? We got some on Instagram. Dixon4542, single or multiply for beginner? And we actually got this question by @LoganBarbell as well. Single ply shirt first, then multi, he was asking. So I think single ply is going to be easier for you to learn with starting out. However, when you're beginning, what I often say is just get what you're going to want to compete in. If you want to eventually get into multiply and you actually want to progress your lifts there and get ranked there, just get a multiply shirt. No need to fiddle around with single ply first if ultimately you want to go to multiply, because I think you can learn either or. You just need to spend some time in a shirt. And in general, I think it would be, you just get into the piece of equipment that you want to learn. Is someone going to be better than someone else because maybe they had a canvas suit this whole time, or someone had started off with a poly squat suit, transitioned to a canvas suit, versus someone that had a canvas suit the whole time? Is there really going to be a dramatic difference there? I don't think so. I think the person at the canvas suit actually is ahead of the curve because with the canvas, a lot more stopping power. And they've been training it this whole time versus the other person who hasn't quite. It has to get adjusted now to two suits versus one. So I think get whatever you're planning on competing with is the way to go there. Single ply, obviously, though, is going to be more forgiving. A poly squat suit versus a canvas squat suit, going to be more forgiving. Easier learning curve, but it really depends if you even care to have an easy learning curve, because I would just get into it and start learning. But great question there, my friend. We got anything coming in from YouTube? Steven Anderson, what's up, Steve? Do you do anything for intra-workout? I have always done the cliche powerlifting thing and had Skittles or Sour Patch Kids, but I think I need to change that up. It's a very popular thing. We also have Allie on the team who she is a jelly bean aficionado. So I guess you'll be the Sour Patch Kid guy there, Steve. So yeah, I think for intra-workout, I think the best solution probably would be something you could drink, so you don't have to take the time to actually eat something. However, if we're drinking fast-acting carbs too, I think Sour Patch Kids are way more fun to eat. So I don't have any problem with that. I used to do the same thing for the quick carbs. Now, you do have to keep in mind, like if I eat gummies, any form of gummy really, I eat enough of those, it is going to cause some real nasty acid reflux. I'm just sensitive to that. Not everyone is, but you have to keep that in mind because, that's just going to be a downer on the session too. But yeah, I don't see there being a huge downside as long as you're really managing your macros and what you're trying to do. If it becomes a negative thing, if you're trying to diet down and you're eating Sour Patch Kids and that's a good chunk of the total calories you have in the day, yeah, there's probably a better way to approach that. But if you are gaining weight, sustaining weight, and you want to eat Sour Patch Kids into your workout, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Because we're ultimately going after that fast-acting carbs. I definitely been in positions where I could use it. So I have no problem with that. Just has to fit the bill, you know what I'm saying? Man, I had an issue of coming down to the chest and losing all tightness. Now I focus on keeping it tight, but wanted to make sure I was doing it right. Yeah, so let me know what you're doing, and I'll see if that sounds appropriate. But also, you gotta keep in mind, the longer the range of motion you have, the harder it's gonna be. I say these things, my range of motion is not very long. I definitely feel for those who have very long arms, it's gonna be hard to maintain back tightness, as opposed to someone who has shorter arms, bigger arch. I don't have to travel very far with the bar. So it's easy for me to create this tightness I'm talking about. Someone with a longer range of motion, it's an unfortunate thing. It's like you can't change the height of where you start deadlifting from. I really wish you could, but you can't. And, the range is what it is on the bench press. You have to touch the chest. That's by rule. It's not like someone can touch chest, but this guy has to touch two board. You know what I mean? So that's just how structure plays in the sport of powerlifting, and that's why genetics are king. That's why some people get ahead and some people got to work their asses off for any bit they get. So that would be what the goal is in terms of back tightness, what we touched on earlier. I think the depression is usually where people start to get lax on that. Logan Barbell says, tips on keeping head on bench. I'm trying to break the habit, and I'd say it's going decent, but when I keep my head on the bench, it just feels wrong. If you're keeping your head on the bench and it feels wrong, probably not keeping back tightness. Whereas lifting your head before and sinking your ribs down and everything um, could be how you were really keying in on that. So you might be losing exactly what I was talking on before, keeping that depression with the shoulder blades. I'd really have to see. But in terms of keeping your head down, it's usually a habit you're just going to have to break. I remember I would always lift my head as well. And it's tough because you're just so used to doing it. It's just instinctual, and it feels weird if you don't. Like switching up anything, but you just gotta stick with it. You gotta stick with it. It does help not to lift your head. There's no real crazy benefit to doing that. Um, you should be able to work around that effectively. So that's why I'd always coach head down. I never have someone lift their head. JCAG 12, planning on doing a Shirta workout with a brand new shirt I got yesterday. Anything I should do before I get in the shirt to prep it? So before you get in the shirt, the only thing I would really do to it is spray it down with water if it's a tight shirt. But honestly, sometimes I wouldn't even do that. Typically though, if you really have to break it in, um, I would spray it down for sure, because what you're gonna find are those fibers. You're gonna hear these popping noises as you're going through, and especially as you're pulling down into more range. And we can avoid some of that by giving it a good spray down across the chest plate, back of the triceps, really wherever we're going to get stretching in the shirt, going to help those fibers stretch a bit more. So yeah, I would spray the shirt down, but I would get it on first and then spray it down. Nothing you should do before wearing the shirt. Besides, if the arms are long, I like to roll up the ends. Some people don't like doing that. I've never seen a negative side effect myself. Um, but then I would spray it while it's on you. So yeah, I would spray it before you actually touch weight. But good luck, my friend. Check out we have a breaking in shirt article. You search on Google, #1 article. I'm very happy about that, because it's a great one that was guest written by Jamie Mata, who has been in like every type of shirt coaching for years. And he wrote a great article, simple to the point, what you should do breaking in a shirt. Just search bench shirt break-in on Google. It should pop right up. Sip of coffee to the working man. See, we've got questions coming in here on YouTube. This thing conks out on me, so I gotta keep looking through. And every time I scroll, I'm sorry, I'm making it go blurry on you guys watching on YouTube, because it refocuses the thing. All right, Mike, any advice for someone who's been keeping their scapula retracted through the whole movement, as in soft elbows? So those two different issues I'm getting at there, Mike. One sounds like you're not having an easy time retracting, keeping the shoulders retracted, or the elbows softening up. Those are two different issues. Unless you're saying when you retract, you often let the elbows get soft. But then I would just focus on squeezing your tricep, get that lockout, and then retract. If you're having a hard time doing that under the bar with weight, then I would start off just trying to get a band, put a band. It's hard to show the setup, but you would it's attached to a power rack. You kind of stiff arm the band out, and then you wrap it around yourself, and then it will pull your arm back. And you'll just focus on creating that same type of tightness you would on the bench. Lock your arm, and then focus on retraction. So control that before you try to control it under weight if you're having a hard time doing that. That's what I would work on. It's just more warm-up stuff that you can do, more drilling like that. What's up, Mike? Mike Frazier. Good day, Coach. Can you talk some on getting into the bench shirt? Yeah, absolutely. So getting into the shirt, first off, I would always recommend getting shirts, slippers. I told you to get shirt slippers. I don't see why anyone shouldn't get shirt slippers, even if you can get it on. It just makes your life so much easier. So that's the first thing I'd say, is just get a pair of shirt slippers. Wear those bad boys. When you get your arms, and it's something that doesn't really get touched on often, will be touched on in my shirted bench course coming out, hopefully again, the end of this month. So check out for that, guys. Just waiting on. I got a meet this weekend actually, and I'm trying to complete a video on breaking in the shirt, and I kind of wanted to show slides from everything up to the meet. That's the final piece of really getting that uploaded. But the shirt to bench course at the end of the month is going to touch on this. But what I'm saying here is when you get your arm into the sleeve, if you internally rotate your arm and put it in the sleeve, it's going to tighten things up. If you're more supinated and you come into it, it's going to loosen things up a bit. Okay, so how you torque your arm coming into the sleeve, make sure that is uniform on both sides. And then again, more internally rotated you come into the sleeve, when you end up coming to a neutral position here, right, you are going to be putting stretch on that chest plate more. So that's a way to kind of jack up the shirt a bit. So find a good neutral spot. And what you want to do is kind of measure where that, so if you have the Phenom, measure where that logo is, that sleeve logo, kind of measure that up with how you're rotated in your arm. So I would just try to make sure that's even. Have someone pull you into it. If you don't have someone to pull you into it, I would pin up the excess shoulder material and just punch into the rest. When punching into the shirt sleeve, right, you need to make short circular jerk motions, all right? You need to, because I see everyone just constantly keep a long push. You need quick jerk motions, okay? You can't just keep punching into something. It's not gonna go that way. You need to pin it down. You need quick jerk motions to get that thing to slide up suddenly. All right. It was like I was moving a fridge the other day. We had to move our fridge out. There's a little bit of water under it. We had to clean it up and stuff. And trying to pull the damn fridge out of the thing, I couldn't just do it by holding it and trying to move it. I had to kind of give it some jerk motions to kind of get the thing going. Use explosive bursts like that. And that's kind of how you want to punch into a shirt. And the shirt slippers make it super easy. Okay. And then when you're positioning the collar, if you're doing it alone, again, it's super tough when you do things alone, but I get my shirt alone. Pull down your collar, okay? And then when you pull down your collar, before letting yourself extend back up, pull the front of your shirt down and just kind of get that thing positioned down. You are going to want to get a bench belt there, Mike, eventually. A standard belt is okay, but a bench belt really just there, because again, we don't really need a belt to bench. And we don't want a big bulky belt, and I certainly don't want something that's going to hold the shirt down too much, but we do want to hold that shirt down a bit. So they make bench belts, and you can get those. I got mine on Elite FTS. It's a P2 bench belt. It's like $50. If you want to be cheap too, you can also just go to Home Depot, get like a carpenter's belt. It's just a thinner belt. So that would be my recommendations. But hopefully it covered a good amount of getting into a shirt. If you have a closed back shirt, well, I don't know what to tell you. You're going to need someone to probably get that thing on. Closed back shirt is tough. I don't think I'd put mine on alone. But I'm willing to try. All right, guys. What do we got? Questions? We get some good questions coming in through YouTube. Franz, Coach Big Ben. What's up, Franz? Matt, I have noticed my bar path sometimes goes straight up rather than up towards my head. Any drills to keep a proper bar path? Yeah, so I would do the drill that I often give shirted lifters for that is attaching the band around the foot of the bench. So you'd wrap it around the collars of the bar. It would wrap around the foot of the bench, so it's pulling you forward really aggressively, and therefore you have to pose it by pushing back. So I would use a light band to start, but then you can eventually progress to something like a mini band. Franz, I've been progressing well on bench, and in the last month I started getting bad tennis elbow after every session. A friend suggested I try benching thumbless, and it helped a lot. Ever heard of this? So that doesn't surprise me, because when you're going thumbless, you're using less of your forearm muscles, and those end up crossing over to the elbow joint and can get inflamed and a little bit nasty. I've certainly experienced benching in a shirt, really getting a good squeeze on the bar with so much weight going through your forearm, especially if you're doing heavy squats too. That happens quite often. And then if you're able to bench thumbless, it's not really a problem. So yeah, that's absolutely a common thing. We also got a question in the other day, it said Jake Romo dealing with bad elbow pain, especially after max effort. And that's especially common when you're also pushing heavy squats, especially if you're benching after squat day, because that position, being in that external rotation under the bar there, that's really what ends up putting a lot of stress to your elbows for the large majority of athletes. And they don't feel it as much when they're squatting, but when they go to bench, it really wreaks havoc. What we've done to combat that with our team is I like to start our lifters out deadlifting first in the week. Actually, I like to start them out benching first. All right, kind of out of the traditional order, but they'll bench first in the week, then they'll deadlift, then they'll bench, and then they'll squat. Okay, so they're getting more rest after that last squat session going into the bench. Than, opposed to the traditional model squat and then maybe bench right after, bench the next day. That can usually really wreak havoc on your elbows. So I've just found it to be an easy switch that doesn't negatively affect anyone and only has positive outcomes. So that's how we have adjusted our training week to make that work out better. Yeah, so the heavy low bar squatting, that will definitely do it, Franz. That's probably what's going on, is that's causing the issue, and then you're just feeling it more on the bench. It's not exactly the bench that's causing the issue. It's just that it's being shown when you're benching heavy. So that's what I would do, my friend. Monitor. I would just switch your schedule around, see if that helps, and then I'll just try to monitor how your heavy squats play into your benching, and maybe trying to stagger those. For a multiply lifter, it's probably just as important to really stagger what you do with the squat and the bench than anything. I think as a raw lifter, you want to kind of stagger deadlifts and the squats. Therefore, you're not like hitting them really hard on the same week. Where in multiply, I think you want to kind of pair up your squat and your deadlifts a little bit and worry more about the bench, hitting the bench on an opposite type of schedule. Let's see, we got it. I want to make sure to follow up. Logan Barbell. Don't want to miss anyone. Logan Barbell, what's your favorite upper back movement right now? Right now, I've just been liking regular rows, Pendlay rows, especially rack rows or block rows, because it's propped up for me. Doing like a Pendlay row off a block, because for myself, little arms, it's a long way down, and to try to hold that type of a hip hinge position while rowing is very, very difficult for me. So yeah, some type of a rack row, block row, where like the bars positioned up and going wider grip, higher touch point. I've been really loving rows lately. It's funny because our team will train squats on Thursday, and I've been predominantly making Thursday a big back work day, and I'm trying to coordinate all the training going on in a very small space. I'm doing rows while our female lifters they're doing some deadlifts, so I'm rowing a little bit less than what they're deadlifting with the bands and stuff like that, and then we got the guys doing heavy squats, and so I would be rowing the entire time while I'm waiting for the guys to finish in the rack and stuff, and I'm trying to coach them up, and I keep hitting rows. I must have done like 10 sets of rows. I'm just gonna keep rowing. So I've been hitting a lot of rows, but yeah, I've certainly done 10 by 10 rows before. Wasn't really a select training session. It was just that I was coaching at the gym, load up the barbell, we'll hit a 10 by 10 for rows, just to get some volume in. I don't think you can really overtrain back too much, and I'll train heavy back before I bench. Don't matter to me. Cyclonic Rabbit, have you ever tried putting the shirt on inside out and then pull it over you? I learned how to do this when I had no one to help put it on. Kind of like putting on elbow sleeves. It makes it effortless. So I've never tried doing it that way. I do know we actually have an athlete who likes to, I think, put his shirt on inside out. No, it's not something I've ever tried out. Is that if that's a good strategy for a closed back shirt, that would make a lot of sense. Then you can swoop it over you. I've never really had much issue with getting a open back shirt on, but those closed back shirts, it's really tough because you're like in a straight jacket with it's a closed back. So it's like wearing a really wet, tight t-shirt. It's pretty much how to describe it. Wearing an open back, there's nothing back there, so it's very easy to maneuver and slide on. You're just kind of getting the arms in, and then you're good. Got some questions came in from Instagram. But first, before I do, I want to drop the code, guys. I'm going to drop the code, all right? Get the warning sirens. Dropping the code right here. You're going to hear it one time only on the Benchcast. All right, this is going to save you 20% off our tire store, whether you're getting wraps, sleeves, buying a program, apparel. We got new hats out, camo hats, red hats, blue hats with the logo. They look real slick. You're going to save 20% until tonight only, expires at midnight. The code is all uppercase, all one word, meet me on the bench. They are very simple, guys. I'm going to say it one more time for those tuning in. This is the code for 20% off. It expires at midnight tonight. Meet me on the bench. All right, you can use that at bigbenches.com to pick up wraps, apparel, programs, anything that you want to grab. Matt says, oh no, my wife was upset I got a new Big Benches shirt. I told her I have to show off my awesomeness at the gym. Well, my friend, I'm just going to have to get her a shirt now. So then you guys are equal. She's not missing out on the Big Benches shirt. All right, we got some more questions that came in through Instagram stories the other day. Also, for lucky someone on either Instagram or YouTube, I take from both, you're going to receive a free t-shirt for joining in today. So make sure, hey guys, the big thing, hey, make sure, tell a friend, if you have a friend that's into lifting, if you have a friend that likes the bench press, we all know someone, just shoot them a message and be like, hey, listen to this Bench Talk Dude podcast, the Benchcast, give them my info, share the podcast. All right, just drop a little line. It really helps. Say, hey, every Tuesday it's live, 12 p.m. Really, really helps, guys, grow the podcast and maybe get a free t-shirt out of it too. So I really appreciate everyone that takes the time to join in. But do tell a friend. It helps us grow. All right, Justin Dackey. Justin Dacker Dackey. Could you briefly explain your warm-up routine for bench? Yeah, so it's really going to be tailored to what I feel is restricted, but some of the common things is going to be the scap movements, scap pull downs, scap retractions. I'm going to be doing a lot of T-spine mobility work. I'm going to be doing a lot of work with a peanut ball. I love the peanut ball, 2 lacrosse balls put together that you run down your spine. I get the base of the skull first. Lacrosse ball in the scap region. Get soft tissue in the front delts, into the pecs. So all that is major staples. I'll start with the soft tissue. I'll go through some stretching. I like the Core 4. You can look that up on our YouTube. We're going to stretch the hips out really good because that gets locked up. But those are pretty common ones, T-spine mobility, T-spine soft tissue. Going to be doing usually some type of activation work. It's going to be, I'm going to be doing like scap retractions with a band, pull downs, pressing dumbbells, something like that. But I've been noticing more and more so, especially in the morning, you gotta move first thing in the morning. And I'm subscribed to the ROMWOD, and that's been a big thing for me. We were doing 10K a day as a team last month. This month, for me personally, I'm trying to stay routine with moving first thing in the morning, doing the ROMWOD, things like that. Huge difference. Waking up out of bed, if you can get moving, primarily stretching. Not just taking a walk, but actually stretching, and that makes a huge deal. So that's what I pretty much focus on, getting ready to bench. It's going to be different every time. Like I said, really depends on what I feel is restricted, but those are the kind of the staples that I'm going to have regularly. Blazins, what's up, my friend? What's up, Sal? Thanks for joining in. Appreciate it, buddy. Got some more questions popping in here. YouTube, Instagram. I got some from stories the other day. So this was a good one by Mike Gibson, 22. How close to a meet do you hit your last shirted bench? And to that I answer 2 weeks out would be the last shirted bench. I've actually done it too at 3 weeks out. It depends how much rest I need. I mean, if I'm brimming to the lid here with confidence and I just need some rest, I'm going to take the rest. So my last bench would probably be an opener 3 weeks out. If the prep is so-so, this last training cycle, it had a lot of weird up and downs. Lost a lot of body weight, so it's been like a cluster. So I'm taking my last shirted bench. Well, I was going to take it last week, but the power went out. So, it's kind of been 3 weeks now, but normally it would be 2 weeks. That's what I have our athletes do. 2 weeks out from the meet, they're going to take their opener. The week of the meet, they're going to do raw warm-ups if they're a shirted lifter. That's the traditional model we'll go by. But again, like I said, if someone's just been crushing it in training, I know they feel very confident. They're not going to gain much more out of trying to bench that close to the meet. They just need the rest. Well, we're going to take the rest. There's no need to push heavy benching or just any shirted benching in general that close to the meet if you just need more rest, because it's demanding, it's taxing too. And it depends how good their recovery capabilities are in their lifting. I've certainly went through periods where I needed more rest. I could only do like 2 weeks in a row in the shirt, and then I was really getting a decline in performance. More so when I'm doing full power. This past training cycle, I haven't really done much of the full power thing. I have really just strictly focused on benching. So I've been able to bench pretty much every week in the shirt without an issue. So it really depends. But more rest is always better. Too many people go into the meet fatigued, harboring discomforts, pains, things like that. You want to come into the meet feeling your best to get your best performance. Okay? Never try to hit weight just for the sake of hitting weight before the meet if you're feeling beat up to shit. Alex Pomp, what's up, my friend? Sent you out your shirt, or your hat, camo hat. And those who heard the secret code, I'll drop it one more time. Meet me on the bench, 20% off until midnight tonight. Pomp got his camo Big Bench's hat coming in. So y'all should grab your hats. We just got them fresh off the print. Camo, blue, red, great colors. How would you recommend someone going back to benching who hasn't since March due to COVID and gym being closed? And in fact, guys, you don't know, New York's gyms are still closed, and there's no timetable for them opening. I know a lot of people very frustrated by that up here. How would you recommend getting back into the bench? That's a great question. I would start off very slow. I would start off, again, I gave a small sample progression on a podcast that I think it was entitled something like Getting Back into Training or whatever. It was one of our shorter Thursday topic episodes, and I laid out a whole plan on how to do this. So I would definitely recommend anyone listening that is in a very similar situation. Everyone's kind of getting back to the gyms at their own pace and everything, going from training at home and going back to the gyms, things like that. Maybe you haven't trained in this period of time. That podcast I would recommend you to. I think the title will be there, and I laid out how to do that. But pretty much what it comes down to is I would make a really low training max at first. So say your best bench is 300 pounds. You can't be going off numbers of 300 pounds. You're going to want to take maybe like 90% of that number, all right? And then the first week, only bench around maybe 70%. By the next week, get an 80%. It's really it's going to be that simple. It's just going to be like a linear progression like that. You're just really going to need to just build up the volume, because what you're going to find going back into it is that you're going to fatigue very quickly. So you're not going to be at your peak strength first off, so you're not going to handle as much weight, but then the weight that you are handling, you're going to have a really hard time doing that for multiple sets because you're going to fatigue. So maybe you get up to a 225 bench, right? You're able to do it for 5 reps. Um, usually that would be an easy weight. The next set, maybe you only feel like you can get it for 4 reps, because that's how quick that fatigue's going to hit. And luckily, that's the work capacity of it is really one of the quickest things to come back. Strength will come back very quick to where it was previously, especially in the time frame that we're looking at, 3-4 months or so. It will still come back pretty decently quick. But yeah, it's a simple progression up, but the training max that you start with is really key, and just building up from there is really going to be the key for getting back into it. But that's definitely probably the biggest thing. I see lifters too who end up hitting more reps after a meet, and during the meet they're training singles and not much volume, doing heavier weight, and then they go back into trying to hit higher reps and all this volume, and fatigue just hits really, really quick. But that picks up pretty quick. Unforeseen Sasquatch. When is the new shirts coming out? I just shit my spleen out watching you bench. When is the new shirts coming out? I don't think I got new shirts coming out, my friend. I'm not sure. Pomp's ready to rock the hat. Glad to hear it, bud. Yeah, the camo's looking nice. That's my my hat of choice. I'm a camo guy. Adam, I know you're always learning and gaining experience from your own training, from coaching and courses you take. I know you program each individually, but how much has your training philosophy changed? So that's a good question. That's kind of a deep question there, Adam. Oop. So definitely it changed a good amount in past years. Trying to think of like some primary examples. It really depends what we're talking about. Nothing really, I guess, at the core of it has changed much. But for example, you always look back, maybe what you did 3 years ago. And since then, so many things have popped up in your training, different things you've had to work around, different things you've discovered, different things that have helped a lot, and that slowly transforms into a whole new way of training and going through that programming. And then you look back on yourself 3 years ago and you're like, wow, shit, why wasn't I doing this earlier? There's always those circumstances. At the core of it, though, I don't think a ton has changed. More so in different movements, different things that you try that you find that go very well. Like a lot of what I've been doing with our team with the pre-fatigue cycle on bench. I really like how that's been working. I've been doing a little bit more conjugate programming. I wanted to kind of delve into that a bit more. So that's something. We have a fair amount of equipped lifters too. And especially with our team here, local, those who train in my gym, we switched over to a conjugate style of programming, and I'm actually going to be training for a full power meet at the end of the year. I haven't really told anyone that, but that's I think what's going to be my next go here, and we've been switching over to conjugate style based programming just because it fits what we're doing, our schedule, which is totally flip flop on its head, ass backwards, but it is what it is, and the conjugate style is going to fit it really well. So I've been doing more of that lately, but yeah, that's kind of you learn as you go, and then you're able to take more information and adapt it to what's changing with people based on their schedules and things like that. So, for example, I've been learning a little bit more about the conjugate style programming, been reading through the book of methods, going over some more stuff on that, and been utilizing it with the local team and a lot of our lifters online as well. And so that's been, a big change too as well. But I hope that answers what you're trying to get across here. But I mean, nothing. I wouldn't say anything dramatic changes. I mean, the principles remain the same, you know. But that's a good question, Adam. Cyclonic Rabbit, I usually take my opener 2 weeks out, then rest the last 7 days, no benching. Just some light accessories for triceps, then I don't do crap the last 4 days, just so everything is fresh for meet day. Yeah, so, I mean, everyone's going to be a little bit different with their approach. I certainly had lifters who we took a good extended period of time off before the meet, and I've had lifters that continue to train heavy right up into the meet, you know. Sip of coffee for the working man. Um, so, yeah, it really depends on the rest period there. Joey Kanoe, I'll see you soon, big dog. I hope so, Joe. We've been saying you gotta come by and train. Adam Bell, would you recommend a particular book for your team to read to understand your training philosophy on a deeper level? What is that book of methods? Um, no, I would nothing in particular because I really try to utilize from everywhere, and like that pre-fatigue cycle I'm talking about in the bench, I don't even think you would see in the book. Um, but nothing in particular, I'd say, because every book there's definitely some great books in terms of exercise science, that type of stuff. Um, in the book of methods, all those super training, um, all those types of books are all great to get your hands on. And there's still many that I still want to jump in and read. Many of those are mentioned in the book of methods. That's by Louis Simmons, Westside Barbell. That I'm reading through now is very, very complete. Although Louis has a very interesting way of speaking and trying to follow what's written. It's a lot of repetitive sentences. In terms of he's saying the same thing over and over many, many times, and sometimes in the same paragraph in ways. So it's very true to how Louis talks in real life, where you're trying to be like, what the hell did he just say? But that's, for example, one that I'm reading through now. I'm taking a lot from that. There was a one that I read, Conjugate You, that I could actually send you the ebook on there, Adam, if you want to jump into that a little bit more. And that was by Nate Harvey. I picked up from Elite FTS when I was trying to get some more on the conjugate too, seeing how he spins it, because everyone spins it a little bit differently. Podcast, I'm a big fan of Anthony Olivier's Stay Hated podcast, and he had a guest on where they really dove into how he messes with the conjugate style programming as well. But yeah, what I'm reading through now, Book of Methods, written by Louis Simmons. So like I said, it's definitely kind of all over the place, but a lot of great information in there. Very interesting, depending how you spin it, because I could see it not working very well for quite a few of our athletes. But then on the flip side, like for our local team, I can see that working tremendously well. It creates a great competitive atmosphere. It allows us to, with the ass backwards type of schedule that we have going on now, gyms being closed, it really allows us to hit the heavy work that we need. And it just works out for what we have available for us, and, taking advantage of that competitive atmosphere. And it's definitely a great style programming too if you work within a group. Okay. But there's also a lot of great books mentioned in there. All the major ones that you would hear about, like Super Training, and a lot of the different books on periodization that those Russian dudes have written. So I would recommend that. You can get on westsidebarbell.com, but I think you can get on Amazon too. I'm reading through that now, like I said. It's very good. Very good. So I think you would really like that, Adam, because I know you like to delve into all the ins and outs. Cyclonic Rabbit. Oh yeah, I'm 51 years old, so rest is imperative for me. Last Sunday just broke the all-time world record in the 65 class. Now hold that record in 48s and now 65s. That's a big accomplishment, my friend. That's a big one. Roberto Castanaras. Hey, how many times for a week you train bench? Sorry for my English. A big hug from Argentina. Thanks, Roberto from Argentina. How many times a week do you train bench? Typically, for our full power lifters, it's going to be twice a week. Some do bench once a week. And then for our bench only lifters, they're usually starting at 3 times a week. One of those days is more of a recovery type of session, so it's not anything with substantial intensity to it. It's usually going to be like 2x20 and a lot of accessories. So hopefully that answers that. But again, it's one of those things. It really depends. Really depends what's working for someone. But usually that's the defaults. We're usually going to start off around twice a week for full power. It'll change from there. Bench only 3 times. But I do have many of our female lifters. I'm having them do some type of pressing 3 times a week. So on their squat day, they're pressing. Their bench day, they're benching, of course. Deadlift day, they're doing pressing as well. Just because I find with females in general, too, they recover so much quicker. They need more of that stimulus. So that circumstance, many of our female lifters will actually bench in all their training sessions. Not barbell benching all the time, but dumbbell pressing, things like that. Matt says, I ordered mine last week. I cannot wait for my hat. Your hat's on the way too, Matt. And you ordered Book of Methods? Or are you just referring to the hat? Because I know we were talking about that too. And I definitely recommend. You know what it is too? It's for the Book of Methods that Louis Simmons wrote, Westside Barbell. It's good information. It's hard as shit to follow. Like the thoughts that go on in a page, you'll see. It's just it's pretty crazy. But again, it's true to how Louis is, and what it does is I'm like really amped up to train, because if you listen to Louis, more so than really learning things most of the time, because I'm trying to follow what the hell he just said, he's one of those persons where I get really motivated to train when hearing them talk, just because you could tell the passion in their voice, and it comes through when you're reading the book too, and just how amped up he gets about people's performances and the gym's recognition and what they're doing in their training. You can just tell he's so amped up about it, and I love that. And my first mentor in the sport, Morgan Mitchell, back home, Massachusetts, where I grew up in, he would help out with the high school teams as well in the weight room. And more so than anything from him, what I learned was I really just a passion for the sport. It was the way he would talk about things. You could just tell he's just so jazzed up, and that just motivates you more and more. And that's really what I'm getting from this book too. So I would certainly recommend it, man. I think it would be awesome to read. Eric Bell, where does sip of coffee come from? Great saying. That's a great question, my friend. Sip of coffee tea and the working man. So Stone Cold Steve Austin, Austin 316, the Texas Rattlesnake. I'm a big wrestling fan. He has a podcast, and this was back 2013, 2014. I was in college. I was listening to him like every drive in the morning because I commuted, and I would always have his podcast on. It was twice a week, Tuesdays, Thursdays. And right now I know he has a lot of backlog episodes, but that was something he'd say all the time on the show, was sip of coffee for the working man, because he'd say he'd drink like 2 things of full of coffee in the morning to get going. And he'd always say, sip of coffee for the working man. So I took that. I started using that. Hey, if you give credit 3 times, then it's yours. That's what I learned. So you credit someone 3 times for something. I've given them plenty credit. Now I've taken over the saying. So that's where that comes from, Eric. That's a great question. We're going to answer just a few more here. Mod Haas, should I add 5 pounds or 10 pounds to my bench every week after coming back to training? I've lost about 40 pounds approximately from my bench after coronavirus stopped. So I would look more right now to just generate more volume. So how I'd approach it is try to build upon how many reps that you're doing each week. So maybe start off with a 3x5. Eventually maybe progress to a 5x5, or you go to a 4x6 in there. Get those total amount of reps up, and build that volume up. And with that, and testing more so, not 1 rep strength, but keep it to like 5 rep max territory. I think you're going to find some really good results with that, instead of always trying to push heavier and heavier each week until you're back to where you were. Everyone wants to get back to where they were very quickly. That's not always the case. Okay, so build up steady to it. Be patient, enjoy the training, build some volume. Don't go heavy off the bat. It's okay to get some heavy work in. Some overload training is great for that. But I'll just look to build some volume, and then you could progress into testing maxes and things like that. But that's how I'd approach it, because obviously the strength's going to be lacking. And trying to get back to that point quickly is going to drive you nuts. So take your time with it. Logan Barbell. This is going to be our last question, guys. We're reaching that hour mark. Things are going to shut off on us after that hour anyway. So Logan Barbell, if I don't have a lot of money to spend on gear and I'm aiming more towards a squat suit, would a single ply shirt do just fine until I have some more money to buy a multi shirt like the SDP? So yeah, if financials are something that's stopping you from being able to invest in a good multi-ply shirt, but you want to get the training in the meantime, there's nothing wrong with getting a used shirt if you can find one for cheap. So if you can find a used SDP, then that's fine. My first one's used. I still use one that was used. So probably it's already broken in for you too. And then if you can just afford a single ply, it is substantially cheaper. It's about half the price. So if that's going to allow you to get into training quick, I don't see anything wrong with that either. A single ply shirt would be easier to learn into than going right to multi. So yeah, financials are definitely something you have to consider when getting equipment. And going the used route, no shame in that. Makes it a lot of sense starting out, because that equipment's already been used and is going to be more broken in for you. So that's what I would look to do. The single ply, substantially cheaper. And at the end of the day, who's coming up to you after your meet performance asking you, oh, what'd you use for your squat suit? What'd you use for your briefs? They just know the number. I know guys wear like 3 briefs, and no one ever asks about how they're wearing 3 briefs, but it's about the number on the bar. So just make sure that number on the bar is going up. Use whatever equipment you need. I could have jumped into a canvas suit for my last meet, probably squatted more, but I had a poly suit. That's what I wanted to work with. That's what I was familiar with from before. I was getting back into it. I used the same suit. So that would be my recommendation to you, my friend. I appreciate everyone who tuned in today. Again, we're going to pick someone at random, okay, that is going to receive a free t-shirt. And remember, the code, gave it away at the middle of this podcast is, I'm not going to say it now, but go back and check that out. That's good for 20% off till midnight only. So if you're looking to get programs, wraps, anything like that, bigbenches.com. Also, check out our VIP membership. In our VIP membership, we have a great community of lifters. I do coaching critiques for those who want to send me their videos. I also will post up exclusive content there that only our VIP members can get. All program templates from our website are free to our VIP members as well. So if you want to join that community, go to bigbenches.com, VIP membership. I appreciate everyone tuning in. Sip of coffee to you. And I'll see you next time.